The only party who can provide that kind of strong, stable, national majority government is the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, there you go. There's no denying it. Stephen Harper is pushing hard for a strong, stable majority government, and he's making some big majority promises. The long gun registry abolished, he says, gay marriage and abortion rights protected, but only if Canadians elect a Conservative majority this time around. But is a minority really such a bad thing? David Mitchell is president of the Public Policy Forum. He is with us in Ottawa to break down the pros and cons of a majority or a minority government. Good morning.
Good morning, Rosemary.
It's Beverly. Yeah, no problem. And just curious, because we've been hearing Stephen Harper talk about this, but it almost seems that minority government is, he wants to make it a bad word for Canadians. The Canadians shouldn't want a minority because it means instability. Are Canadians really against a minority?
You know, minorities have become the new normal, not only in Canadian politics, but virtually everywhere we look in the world where there is a Westminster British-style government, whether it's in the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, on and on. Minorities are very, very common. In fact, we're living in an age of minority governments. In Canada, we're now entering the 7th consecutive year of minority parliaments. It's something that Canadians, by and large, have become accustomed to.
But it is something that, you know, one tends to think can't be as effective. Anybody who's running for government wants to have a majority, clearly, because the road's a little bit easier. But how do you measure the effectiveness? What's the efficacy of a minority government?
Yes, it's a very good question you're asking. We actually did some research at the Public Policy Forum prior to the election, asking Canadians these kinds of questions. And what Canadians said is very different from what we're hearing from politicians. Some politicians clearly have strong views on this, but Canadians, by and large, don't really care very much whether we have a minority or a majority government. What they want is good government, and they want our politicians and political parties to get along with each other and to work together more effectively. So in terms of the efficacy or the actual impact, majority governments can get their way with less interruption and less opposition within Parliament. But on the other hand, Canadians are saying they want their politicians and parties to actually cooperate and work together.
When you talk about cooperation and working together, you could also be talking about a coalition.
Well, we do have coalitions as well. In the United Kingdom right now, we have coalitions. That's one possible outcome of a minority parliament. But I think the important thing to consider is how are governments formed in a minority parliament. There's one very simple rule. It's so simple it's almost shocking. The party and the leader who are able to command the confidence of the House after an election get to govern. That's the rule, and everything stems from that. And, you know, there's a lot of misinterpretation and confusion about that right now in Canada. We don't have clearly written, publicly available guidelines that explain this simple fact.
But I guess another fear would be in a minority situation that could down the road lead to a hung parliament, or that it would be difficult in this case to maybe get the budget through, because then we're going to be sitting on the edge of the fence waiting to fall off again into another election.
Yeah, this concept of a hung parliament is an interesting one. It's a term that's more commonly used in the United Kingdom and elsewhere, but what it means is a parliament that can't get anything done, that is indecisive. In truth, we've seen minority parliaments, like the most recent one that just ended, that actually can be productive. Some very creative public policy comes out of so-called hung parliaments, but it requires the minority government of the day to work closely with the other parties. We've seen experiences of that in Canadian history, and we see it elsewhere right now as well.
Sure do. David Mitchell, thank you for your expertise. Appreciate it.